Hello, you are with JP on the Gold Coast. Today, I invite you to join us for a 3-day, 60-kilometre walk along the wild beaches of New South Wales. Our journey begins at Brooms Head and will end at Red Rock Beach, surrounded by untouched nature. We start the day with the magnificent sunrise. Read the recommendations before you leave.
Alright, welcome everybody. This is day 1 of a Yuraygir walk. It's actually called Angourie, but we are walking through the Yuraygir territory. This land belongs to the Yaegl Aboriginal people, the original custodians of this northern coastal area. Today we will be following the tracks of the coastal emu. The coastal emu is an endangered species. There are only somewhere between 100 and 150 of them left. As you'll notice along the way, we will occasionally see signs on the track. They show the footprint of the emu. On the toes of the emu there are 4 colours, and each colour represents the type of territory we will be walking through. Orange is for the beach, red is for the rocks and rock platforms, green is for the bush trails, blue is for the river crossings. Those 4 colours represent the different landscapes along this walk. Today we have a little under 60 people walking, and we'll be covering about 18 kilometres. We'll start by heading down along this headland and then on to the beach just over there. Further along the point over there will be a morning tea stop. When we get there, we'll stop for a break. Feel free to take plenty of photos. Over there, you'll see some beautiful sculptures. They were discovered by sculptors who worked together on them. They're really lovely. We also have the river crossing organised over there. Depending on timing, we'll have morning tea first and then make the crossing. After the river crossing, we may have lunch on the far side of the river before continuing through the small township of Sandon.
Between Brooms Head and Red Rock Beach, the beaches seem endless. Kilometres of golden sand, no roads, no buildings, no crowds, just the ocean and the wind. Along the beach, we come across a whole series of sculptures made from pieces of wood, plastic, and other objects found on the shore. Amazing creations, some simple, some very elaborate. There are some incredibly artistic people here. Sandon Village, the adventure takes on a new dimension. The first river blocks our path. But here, everything is taken care of. A ferryman, with his small boat, helps us reach the other bank. A simple crossing, but one that adds to the charm of the expedition.
The village used to have quite a lot of permanent residents, but for the last 20 or 30 years it has basically only been used as a holiday place. People come here during their Christmas and Easter holidays, but other than that there aren't many people around. It's a very quiet spot. As I said, there are only about 30 or 35 small houses here. We'll walk through the village. There is actually a shortcut through here, but it's nicer if we go up and around through the village. From there we'll come to a track, and when we reach it we'll have 2 options. We could go to the left and continue along the beach walking, which is the track we'll be taking. The other track is also marked, but we won't be taking that one. That one goes through the bush and leads all the way down to the Uluru camp area, but much of it is underwater at the moment. That's why today we'll be doing a lot more beach walking. Once we come back out onto the beach, we'll be walking on the sand and in the sun again. We'll go part of the way along the beach and then find a nice shady spot near the rocks and trees where we'll stop for lunch. After that, we'll continue onto the Uluru camp area. From there, we'll continue along bush tracks through to the small village of Minnie Water. There's a general store there, so if you need to buy anything, I recommend doing it there. After that, we'll continue through Minnie Water and onto a caravan park, hopefully arriving there around 4 o'clock. So that's the plan for today.
The wind slows us down, the sand holds us back, but it's also in the effort that we fully appreciate the grandeur of this place. Here, nothing is easy, and perhaps that's why every kilometre counts more. This region, it's very common to encounter these large lizards called lace monitors. They're not very shy and aren't aggressive. They simply ask to be left alone.
You get stunning reflections here because the water is dark brown with all the tannins in it.
Arrive at Minnie Water, where this first day ends. We'll spend the night in holiday cabins. After a good night's rest, tomorrow we'll head back towards Wooli Beach.
If you have a look at today's section, it's only about 13 kilometres, but we'll be doing several different types of terrain. We'll have some bush walking, some rock sections, and some beach walking. If you look at the colours on the map, I explained yesterday that they correspond to the 4 colours on the little emu footprints we are following along the coastal emu walk. Today we have some yellow, which represents beach walking. We also have some red, which represents rock sections, and we have some green, which represents bush trails. We don't have any blue today, which would indicate river crossings. So today we'll be walking through 3 different types of terrain. Be prepared for the rock sections and make sure you have your walking shoes on. We'll be leaving here and heading up to the top of the headland at Minnie Water. From there we'll walk along the top on bush trails before going down to the beach. Then we'll walk along the beach towards Diggers Camp. Around the headland, we'll have some rocky sections, and we might have to make our way carefully around them. Hopefully we'll be able to climb back up to the top of the cliff using the stairs that were there last time, although after the storms we may have to find another way up.
This is the ecosystem of our forest, the white ant, which is terrible in residential areas, but in the forest there's a lot to the ecosystem.
The melaleuca is an Australian native tree, often called the papa bark tree. In the past, Aboriginal people used the bark in many ways, including for food preparation, wrapping their food in the layers of bark. The bark can also be used for art and craft. My mother used to make beautiful paintings using pieces of papa bark. It's a wonderful material for craft work, especially for large artworks that show all the different shades and textures of the bark. Melaleuca trees usually grow in swampy areas, and their bark is really remarkable. We call it papa bark because if you look closely, the bark peels off in thin layers, almost like sheets of paper. Aboriginal people used it for many different purposes, but today many people use it mainly for art and craft because the bark is so beautiful with its colours, shapes and textures. It has become a very popular natural material for artistic work. This is Wilson's Headland. Down here we'll be passing through this area, so please be very careful because the track has fallen away in places. We'll make our way around. Behind you is Wooli Beach. If you look up in the distance, way over there, you can see a large grey structure. That's actually a big silo out on the peninsula. We won't be going anywhere near that today, so don't worry. It's quite a long way from here. In a little while, David and Dennis will hopefully make their way down onto the beach, and that will show us where we need to stop. If they don't, we'll simply head down there ourselves. If you look further along the beach, you'll notice a break in the sand. If you follow the shoreline to that break, that's the Wooli River. That's where we'll be crossing tomorrow. From this headland you can see that the river mouth is quite wide, and it's definitely not swimmable. We'll be crossing on an outgoing tide, which is normally a dangerous time to swim, and it's not really recommended for boats either. However, we need the outgoing tide in order to safely pass the rock platforms around the headland tomorrow. After that will be the final section of our walk. Then we'll head inland and cross the beautiful flats before continuing on to where we'll be staying tonight. Day 3 is our final day of the walk. It's going to be quite an interesting day, because we'll be covering all 4 different types of trail surfaces. We'll start with a simple 4-kilometre walk through the township of Wooli, heading out towards the peninsula. Then we'll reach the blue section, which means a river crossing at Wooli. After that we'll have a bit of bush walking, which is the green section, before coming out onto the beach. From there we'll reach the rock platforms and cliff sections, which are marked in red. Some parts will also involve a bit more bush walking, because we may need to find the track back up to the top of the cliffs. We have ropes with us, if we need them for some of the steeper sections, because things may have changed since the last time we were here. Once we start the cliff section, we'll have about 5 kilometres of cliff walking. We won't be stopping for morning tea until we've completed that section. After that we'll come out onto an area known as freshwater. This is a secluded breeding area for the little tern, which is an endangered species, so it's quite a remote and protected area. After passing through there, we'll continue to a camping area called Pebbly Beach. There's no fresh water there, but there is a small inland trail we'll probably take. It's only a short distance and offers a bit more shade, although it can be quite sandy. We'll stop just before Station Creek and have lunch there. After lunch, we'll head out towards the mouth of Station Creek, where it meets the ocean, and cross the water there. Then we'll have a final stretch of about an hour. In the distance, you'll start to see Red Rock, with its beautiful deep red and maroon cliffs. We'll make our way down to the Red Rock River, where there's a boat ramp further down the river. And that will be the end of our walk. There's still plenty to see along the way. It should be a really wonderful day, with lots of variety. It has a beautiful brown colour because of the tannins in the water. The water actually comes up from underground through rocks known as coffee rock. That's what gives it that beautiful brown colour.
The walk between Wooli Beach and Red Rock is truly a beautiful stretch of the North Wales coast. This section of coastline has remained largely undeveloped and very natural. You often walk for miles with hardly anyone on the beach, between the Pacific Ocean on one side and coastal forests and marshes on the other. A large part of the hiking trail crosses or runs alongside Yuraygir National Park, one of the largest coastal parks in New South Wales. It protects immense dunes, eucalyptus forests, lagoons, and wetlands teeming with biodiversity. It's not uncommon to spot dolphins swimming along the coast, sea turtles, and during the season May to November, migrating humpback whales. The lagoons and estuaries surround the Wooli River and Corindie River attract many birds, pelicans, herons, egrets and sometimes sea eagles. The destination, Red Rock, owes its name to the iron-rich red cliffs that overlook the mouth of the Corindie River. The contrast between the red rock, the light sand, and the blue water is spectacular, especially at sunset. A sometimes challenging walk even though the beach looks easy. Walking in the sand and often against the south wind can make progress quite strenuous, especially over long distances. The ruddy turnstone is a rather discreet shorebird, sometimes seen on Australian beaches. This small migrant undertakes an extraordinary journey. Every year, it travels over 10,000 kilometers from the Arctic regions, Alaska, Siberia, Groenland, where it breeds, to spend the summer on the coasts of the southern hemisphere. Its name comes from its characteristic behavior. With its beak, it turns over pebbles, shells, and seaweed to find small crustaceans, mollusks, or insects. It is most often found on rocky beaches, estuaries, and sandbanks, often in small groups. While not extremely rare, it remains a rather discreet bird, and each encounter is always a special moment with nature. We're arriving at Red Rock Beach. One last river to cross, and this unforgettable 3-day, 60-kilometer walk comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed the journey and that you'll join me for the next adventure. Thank you for walking with us.